The rural way of life is about making everyone feel at home. Tractor Supply chose advanced 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to transform intelligent customer service. Together, we put the power of AI to work across 2,200 stores, keeping things running seamlessly inside, curbside, and countryside. This is elevated customer experience. This is Tractor Supply with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I'm cocked, locked, and ready to rock, Doc. Hey, working hard, playing hard America. This is your blood brother, Ted Nugent, celebrating the American dream and our Second Amendment rights to keep and bear arms with my blood brother, Steve Cates. Stand up for what you believe in, my friends.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting edition of the Dr. Sky Experience here on Talk Radio 77. Where else? WABC. Throughout our 2-hour show, as we welcome you, new guests, and old friends to this radio archive, you can call us, and we hope you do, at 1-800-848-9222. That's 1-800-848-9222, which, of course, stands for WABC. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Tony, our navigator and helmsman, navigating this powerhouse signal of WABC to you, no matter where, in the nation, around the world, or who knows, maybe out in the cosmos, if there are listeners. As we transition from Friday the 13th, of course, we move into Flag Day the 14th, and then from Flag Day the 14th, celebratory wishes to all fathers, and of course, all those who will be fathers, as we move into Father's Day and Father's Day weekend. Did you know the adoption of the U.S. flag occurred back on June 14th, 1777, by a resolution of the Second Congressional Congress 248 years ago? And also, happy 250th anniversary to the United States Army, and heartfelt wishes to President Donald John Trump as he celebrates his 79th birthday. Ladies and gentlemen, by popular demand, we're bringing back another very special guest on the Dr. Sky Experience. As you see the world burning, and Operation Rising Lion continues with Israel and Iran, we're hoping that somehow peace can, of course, be around the corner. But let's be real. Things that are happening in our world today, our special guest, and we'll introduce him again for the next 2 hours, is technology person Patrick Wood. He's the author of many books. Patrick Wood is a leading and critical expert on sustainable development, green economy, Agenda 21 and 2030, and historic technocracy. He's the author of Technocracy, The Hard Road to World Order, Technocracy Rising, The Trojan Horse of Global Transformation, and co-author of Trilaterals over Washington. Wood remains a leading expert on the elitist Trilateral Commission, their policies and achievements in creating their self-proclaimed new international economic order, which is the essence of sustainable development on a global scale, in our guest's opinion. You can reach him by going to technocracy.news, technocracy.news. Jam-packed with information, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're concerned, that is, about the future of AI job loss, AI taking over, and never to be shut down, robots, multi-trillion-dollar business coming around the corner, Hawaii to change its tourism carbon footprint, and so much more in the so-called Great Reset, we bring on Patrick Wood for another exciting edition of the Dr. Sky Experience. Patrick, good evening to you and good morning to the world. Thank you for joining us.
Greetings, and thank you for having me back again. We're going to have a great show, I think, today.
Well, Patrick, I appreciate it. And before we get moving here, I wanted to remind the listeners this time, of course, is available for everybody out there who, and again, don't feel, that you're a stranger, ladies and gentlemen. You called into this radio show before on this very popular topic. The number, 1-800-848-9222. But to give the impetus for the callers out there to call in, tell us what's happened in the last few weeks before we had you, since we've had you, I should say. You've been the host of a very serious group of meetings on this whole subject of technocracy. Tell us what you've been doing in the last couple of weeks. I think it's fascinating.
Well, I'll tell you, at this point, with all the stuff going on in the world right now, it's getting really, really crazy. With what's going on in the Mideast, what's going on in Ukraine. China is now raising its ugly head to support Iran. Perhaps Russia will as well. We're looking at very serious trouble, I think, in the world. And the reason I make this point, technocracy thrives on chaos. It always has, and it always will. Because whenever you have a chaotic situation, the technocrats in modern history, in any case, they always have a solution ready at hand to take care of everything and slap you with a scientific dictatorship, even worse. And my fear at this point is that the chaos going on in the world right now is going to be the hotbed for technocracy moving forward from here.
Patrick, this is interesting, and I want to allude to a documentary, I should say, that's out there. And I want you to talk a little bit about this, because I viewed majority of this, and I will review, I promise myself and the listeners, and encouraging them to take a look at this documentary that you're a part of. It's called The Agenda, Their Vision, Your Future. Let's put this into context as we talk about this very subject. People may be wondering as they're listening to the show, hey, I thought you talk about space and science. Well, part of science happens to be the subject of AI. And all the other, ruminations of what's happening around with AI, plus a lot of other things. But in the best way you can describe this particular video, talk about this, because in your words, as you mentioned to me off air, there's never been a great compilation like this in talking about technocracy. Describe to us what we're going to be talking about here, about this particular video, The Agenda, Their Vision, Your Future.
Exactly. I'll lay it out end to end. I think we talked about this in the last episode together. However, historic technocracy, fast forward from 1932, when the whole thing was created in the first place, to 1973, when the Trilateral Commission got hold of the concept of technocracy. It was presented to David Rockefeller by Zbigniew Brzezinski, and they took off with it, and they created the Trilateral Commission in the first place. That was to create a new international economic order. That's what they said at the time. Fast forward from there, we see the introduction of sustainable development, Agenda 21, in 1992 with the Earth Summit that took place in Rio de Janeiro. And that's where Agenda 21 was born. Sustainable development was born. This was all about a resource-based economic system, basically modeling historic technocracy. So from that point forward, we fast forward to 2015, when the 2030 agenda was created. That was a follow-up of the Agenda 21. And at this point, we're living with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals being instituted all over the world today. And when you look at AI at this point, this has been the pinnacle of technocrat achievement at this point, and it's being used as a sledgehammer on society everywhere, not just in our country, but all over the world, to achieve technocratic control. Now, let me just say that when I say technocrat, we're talking about a person who is not elected, is not accountable to anybody, but he's making policy decisions for the rest of us.
Well, nobody likes that. I mean, I don't think there's anybody within the vast audience of 77 WABC that thinks any of this stuff is good, unless they're part and parcel of the the source of this and developing this. But let me just jump into this a little bit, ladies and gentlemen. This is interesting. If you're not upset about what he's about to say, let me give you, as if I had a menu in front of me. Here's what's on the menu in what we're talking about a new documentary called The Agenda, Their Vision, Your Future. Digital ID, as we've heard about that. All the way down the line to technocracy. Control of the monetary system, surveillance, central banking, currency control, AI, land control, energy control, food control. Oh my gosh, it goes on. Censorship, the digital prison, geofencing, zero trust. I mean, this stuff should alarm people in every aspect of life, because I think it's extremely dangerous. But describe more of what people can find out about this particular documentary. I mean, this to me is so fascinating. It kind of puts it all together, where all this material has kind of been scattered. And they can learn more about you by technocracy.news.
Exactly. When I said end-to-end explanation of technocracy, this is the first documentary in my memory, I don't think there's ever been one like this, that took the whole subject from top to bottom to explain what technocracy is and the dangers of technocracy. And when we talk about Agenda 21 as being part of technocracy, this was basically the same thing that they were trying to do in 1932 when technocracy was created at Columbia University in the first place. It was a horrible, horrible disaster, almost for the country in the 30s and 40s. Technocracy did not take root at that point. It was cast off by society. It's a good thing. History would be different if we didn't get rid of it back then. But we have a chance now to get rid of it. And will we do it? I don't know yet. There's some hope at the end of this. We might prevail to get these people off our back. But
exactly,
point,
and shows like this, Patrick. Shows like this, we're obviously hoping that people obviously want to pay attention to this. So let's go back in time. We had George Orwell, 1984. Yes. We all had to read it in school. Many of us didn't have any idea. Some of us threw the book in the garbage going, this is nonsense. It'll never happen. Aldous Huxley, Brave New World, 1931. He obviously, as you say, and you say it very well, outlined this whole concept of technocracy. And now today, it's just like sand slipping through our fingers in many cases where people are just, how do I say this? Don't be slaves to such nonsense. And how do people, obviously through shows like this, you get educated. That's my goal and yours too. Yes. But there's so many facets of this, Patrick, that I think are so dangerous for the world. And please continue. I didn't mean to cut you short there, because obviously this is an important topic that I think goes to the top of many people. It should be many people's concern.
It really should. Well, let me just give you a couple of ideas on where the state of the art is right now with technocracy. Number one, technocrats and technocracy is pitted against our political system en masse. Technocrats hate politicians. You can see when they talk about deregulation and no regulations for them, for everything else they don't care, but for them, for instance, AI, they don't want any regulation at all. They just want to run free with it and see where it lands. That's a very, very bad idea. When you talk about property rights, they're talking about removing all property rights from people where we can't own land, houses, and other things, like things that make us, Americans, I guess. When you talk about property rights, this is near and dear to every person in America. And you talk about
I'm going to say this, Patrick,
around the country now.
Right. What say the people out there? 1-800-848-9222. Because let me say this. I'm listening to you. I've followed you for many, many years. We've had you, of course, as a guest on many other shows I've done. And it's always been overwhelmingly popular, as I'm sure this whole episode will be, of course. But it's so amazing. It just ingrates me with that people that I talk to. I talk to so many people, and they're like, well, that's really like a fantasy. They're not trying to do any of these things. And you bring up the subject matter, and it's just so incredible. And one of the statements that I think is so profound in this whole video that we're talking about here is, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Own nothing and be happy. Can you define that? It sounds almost like a cliche, but what does that mean in the concept of technocracy? This is important.
Well, this is exactly what Klaus Schwab said a couple of years ago during COVID. That basically you're going to own, well, not basically, he said it flat out. You'll know by 2030 you will own nothing. You'll be happy, he said. That won't happen, obviously, but if you
who'd be happy?
Own nothing, well, they said at that point everything is going to be rented or leased or perhaps pay-per-view. No matter anything in your life that you need, that you could be able to rent it somewhere, but you're not going to own it. This is insane. The Western civilization is based on property rights, period. The right to own property, the right to save money, the right to save money and give it to your kids if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm. Of course. So where's all this interference coming from?
This is really insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
terrible.
When you talk about these basic freedoms that we've enjoyed in this country, everything has been chipped away by this business of technocracy, because what they're saying to us is they have the science, we don't. We're ignorant fools. They have the science to make all the decisions for us according to their, what they think is good for us. Well, doesn't that leave us like cattle in the feedlot, basically?
Oh, of course.
Where
Absolutely.
we're going to be herded from pen to pen and shot and given special rations or whatever. This is crazy. This is not what anyone wants in our country. However, at this point, this technocrat class, they've basically taken over our country at this point. They're everywhere in Washington, D.C. at this point. They're asserting themselves as themselves all over the place in domestic policy and fiscal policy, you name it. How do we get rid of these people? Well, they're unelected for one. They're not accountable to anybody, basically, except perhaps the president. But they're going to affect our lives. This is the whole point of the movie, the agenda. The subtitle, Their Vision, Your Future. That sums it up.
Patrick, let's go on to something here as we move to the bottom of the heartbreak at the bottom of the hour here. In the big, beautiful bill, which the thing I've analyzed it, I think I agree with a good part of what's in there, of course, but there's one area of concern, and I think loud and clear, I'm going to say it twice. In the big, beautiful bill, and you can say it better to qualify it, apparently there's some sort of a incapable way that the United States, meaning states, cannot change any federal mandates to the whole AI program for a period of 10 years. Explain it in your way of maybe I didn't get the words out right, but I think I was on the right track. What's in there about AI that should be of concern to anybody who's a thinker?
Well, somebody slipped in this clause into the House version at first, and who did it? I don't know, but probably somebody like David Sachs, the AI czar. He might have been the one that suggested this clause, but it's patently unconstitutional, for one thing, to limit the states to do anything.
Well, of course, it's a 10th Amendment issue, isn't it?
Passed to the Senate.
Right.
It really is. But when the bill was passed to the Senate, it ran into the so-called Byrd Rule, which means, and I think that's probably from Senator Byrd some along the way in history. But anyway, the Byrd Rule says you can't attach any non-budgetary item to a budget bill. Okay, that makes sense. I like that a lot, actually. So they had to change. This clause at this point to make it read as a budget item, where if a state messes with their own regulations to do something with AI to protect the people in their state, for instance, well, the federal government now has the right to deny them, that state, to deny them funding from a special fund that President Trump has set up to make data centers and things like that, infrastructure, energy stuff, to run AI data centers.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, those states that buck the trend, they're not going to get any of that money, period. So now they set it up as a budgetary item, but it still has the same effect, right? Yes. Mr. State, you messed with us, you're going to be punished by not getting any money from us to do AI financing in the first place. Yes. So it's still in the bill at this point. It's been reformed, if you will, according to the Bird Act or Bird Regulation. Or I guess they call it a rule, I think, not a regulation. But at this point, it looks like it's going to pass. And that will hamstring states going forward to make significant changes to AI. Because, honestly, the states need that money. It's their money in the first place. They should have it. But it's going to be withheld from them if they buck the trend.
Well, I'm sure there'll be fights, as we just mentioned before. The 10th Amendment has so much, empowerment here on such a subject like this. But it's interesting because we have to really look at this monster or this great thing called AI, whichever the people out there think it is. But through programs like this, Patrick, trying to educate people so that they have, how do I say this, critical thinking with conversation here on Talk Radio 77 WABC with the Dr. Sky Experience. In so many of these complicated subjects. Because, look, the world's on fire right now, obviously, the whole planet, all this disagreement. But I couldn't disagree at all with you talking about what's happening in this globalism concept. And I'm just amazed when I just talk and listen. I do better listening than talking with so many people about these subjects. They seem as if it's like, well, what are you talking about? That's not going to happen. Well, it sure as hell is happening, ladies and gentlemen. And obviously, lighting up the phones, we'll be, back in just a moment or two here when we hit that hard break at the bottom of the hour. And if you, certainly want to chime in on this, we'd like to hear what you folks think about many of the subjects. But it's just fascinating here. 1-800-848-9222. That 922, of course, obviously stands for WABC. So, Patrick, tell us again, how can they get in touch with you? Because you write so prolifically here as far as so much. You're always on in there creating new blog content, new articles, and new content. Tell us how people can get in touch with you.
You bet. Technocracy.news, not .com, but .news. That's my primary website where all information is available to you. They got books, we got videos, we got posting articles all the time. But listen, you need to go to the top of the page, see that movie, the agenda, their vision, your future. Click on the red dot there and listen to this video right now online. And if you want to go to YouTube also, I think there's going to be a link that shows up. You can go to YouTube directly. But nevertheless, you can look at the movie right in line on technocracy.news.
And I'm going to disagree with you for the first time in many years. I'm going to tell the listeners, do not do that right now for the next hour and a half, correct? As we continue to talk here on the Dr. Sky Experience. But no, this is very interesting. And I'm just saying this to everybody out there. If you listen to this and watch this video, I'm amazed at what I see in there. And it's done not in the sense of, scaring people. It's just trying to provide content with credibility and many, many sources to back up the information in there. Because, there's so many things to talk about here, Patrick. And that's why I say to everybody out there, ladies and gentlemen, you're really the reason why we're doing 2-hour interviews with various guests, because some of the emails I get and the texts are, and they say it in simple language. Hey, Dr. Sky, we can't get in because we want to talk about these subjects. So that's why we've decided, in many cases, to talk with you, ladies and gentlemen, not at you. And that opportunity exists to really dig into these very good subjects, which you don't really hear in many platforms in the media anymore. They're short 2-minute little interviews. And how can you get the word out? Which is very difficult indeed. 1-800-848-9222. We know we have on the other side of the break a lot of other callers that want to get in on the conversation. And ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow night, as management, John Katsimatidis, owner and operator, and management has given me the privilege and honor of doing an additional Saturday midnight to Sunday 2 a.m. We're looking to have a very interesting gentleman for 2 hours. His name is Don Iles. Who is he? As a young student at MIT in his 20s, he developed, along with his team, all the landing software for the Apollo missions when Neil and Buzz did that first amazing historic event back on July 20th, 1969. Don Iles, will be talking with us about how he created all this software in that amazing landing on the moon and then all the subsequent Apollos. You're listening to me, Steve Cates, Dr. Sky, the Dr. Sky Experience. Our special guest as we continue to move through time and space, Patrick Wood at technocracy.news. We'll be right back after these important announcements.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, this is Kelly Hansen from Foreigner, and you are listening to the Dr. Sky Experience on 77 WABC.
31 minutes after the hour, we thank Kelly Hansen of the iconic rock band Foreigner. They'll be traveling and doing their last tour together, ladies and gentlemen, throughout 2025 and coming to a city near you. We'll be talking with those great people in future iterations of our show. Here's a quote that's apropos. It's hard to determine whether the brazen brashness of the bureaucrats or the toxic passivity of the public has been more shocking. A quote from the famous James Tunney, who's been involved in technology. Our special guest as we move toward the top of the next hour, Patrick Wood at Technocracy.news, a good friend of mine talking about the subject. But ladies and gentlemen, as we requested, the callers rule here on the show. So let's go to line one and welcome Lou to the conversation in Long Island. Good morning. How are you doing, Lou?
Yes, good morning. Great show. It is all a plan, it seems. They don't want you to own anything, the globalists, the technocrats, whatever you want to label them.
Right.
You're going to be beholden to them for everything. As I said to your screener, one of the happiest days of my life is when I got my 40 by 100. It was mine.
Yes,
and they don't want you to have that.
Mm-hmm. You bet. Yeah, Lou, it's a real serious issue. Patrick, let's jump in. Lou's getting us excited here about topics that are, how do we say it, common sense that most people out there, I think, really need to listen, learn, and follow some of these instructions to protect yourselves. Patrick, your response.
Exactly. Until you have your private property taken away from you, some people just will never understand. But when they have their property taken away, then they'll get the picture. For instance, look at all the people who have been dislodged from their homes because either they couldn't afford them or they got bankrupt or whatever, or somebody came in and like BlackRock and bought up their whole neighborhood. Now they can't find a house that they can exist in. Now all of a sudden they become renters. And I see all of these apartments going up in Mesa, Tempe, Chandler, and Arizona here. They're all over the place. On every corner, it seems like they're popping up like crazy. The people who are into these apartments, most of them, if not many, maybe most of them, were formerly property owners. They've been dislodged from their property. Look at all the farmers have been dislodged from their land in the last 10, 15 years. Thousands and thousands of them.
You bet. Lou, what do you think? I mean, to respond back to Patrick here, I mean, we want to get you in the conversation here. You're bringing up all these points here in Arizona, like Patrick said. We're seeing these stack and pack buildings.
Everything is 100%.
Right.
And, there's also a shortage of housing because all these foreclosures that happened in the great, downfall, 2008, 10, whatever it was, they were all bought up by hedge fund companies. And they renovated them after they were foreclosed, but they didn't put them up for sale. They kept them for rentals. So you couldn't even get a starter home anymore.
That's amazing, Lou. It's everywhere. Lou, I hate to get you short. I want to say thank you, brother, for being part of this experience.
Thank you for letting me on. And
hey, anytime, and I hope you join us in the future. Let's continue on with the great callers. On line number 2, we welcome Tony in Arizona. Tony, thanks for joining us. Your comments.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sky, and thank you, Dr. Woods, for coming to this Dr. Sky experience. I'm going to bring something else into this big topic of technocracy, which covers quite a bit as far as different subjects underneath it. One of the things that was brought up even before about people losing property, things like that. Another thing that's been attacking us for a while now is what people have access to other than, their individual rights, things like that. And I'm talking about being able to purchase things or even health care, being able to be part of it, when for a while now there's been this idea to make things better, faster, smarter, using the microchip implants that some corporations mandate. All of their employees have to have this device, or they won't even be working there, as well as many European countries demanding their citizens get involved with this microchip technology, which, limits the access to whatever thing that they can receive depending upon the reader that scans this chip. Especially now, that's part of the artificial intelligence we've been grown to trust. Now we're seeing it gain a personality. That's what I think is starting to scare us more. What do you think about that?
Yeah, Patrick, he brings up some good points.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. We need to look in China to see exactly where this is going. When China has a social credit system, and it basically can hedge you in to a certain behavior by dinging you for things that you do that they don't like, and rewarding you to do things that they want you to do. Well, in China right now, there's so many cameras there monitoring you 24/7. They know where you are all the time. They know everything about you. They're watching you all the time with AI, I might add. So if you cross a street, kitty corner, in other words, you're a jaywalker, your picture will be taken, put up on a shame board on the spot, and you'll be fined from your bank account before you even get home for your transgression. Well, this is the concept of a digital prison, where
I agree.
Everything is monitored about you, and the people have no ability to escape at that point. Now, honestly, there's a lot of young people in China that kind of figured out some workarounds, sneaking around, doing stuff. But you know what? By and large, they can't get loose of the system. Once it's in place, it's almost virtually impossible to get out of it. But this is coming to America now. We look at China and say, oh, that's just China. That China does weird things over there. It's not going to happen here. I'm sorry.
It is happening. Right. It is happening here, and people need to pay attention. Tony, your last response back. Go ahead.
Exactly.
Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, well, I see that. Obviously, it's kind of like putting the frog in the warm water and then bringing the water up to a boil, where it's not noticed as much until it's too late. Whereas now we have cars. There was even firearms there for a while. There had an ID chip or a ring that you had to wear to be able to use this gun, this magic gun or whatever you want to call it. It seems like it's spreading everywhere.
I know. You bring up good points, Tony. I wish time was available for every deep conversation, but my friends who are calling or people that are still on the line will do our very best in our 2-hour episode here of the Dr. Sky Experience to get people on. Let's say good morning as we go to line 1, and let's say good morning to Bill in Brooklyn. Good morning. You're on with Patrick Wood.
Hi, how are you, sir?
Doing fine, sir.
Oh, good. I just wanted to go a little bit deeper onto this, and I feel that people have to come out and say this is all about control. They're taking your freedoms away little by little. I've been saying it for years. What they do is try to get people easy, like with debit cards, this card, where you don't have to carry cash. Just go to the machine, put it in. They could track everything you do, like they did to the people on January 6th, Bank America. They tracked everybody's card, knew where they were staying, where they went to eat, then they went and got them. And this is the mark of, who's the bad guy. And it's Mary said, this technology is evil. And once it takes place, it will kill everything. Like I said, they don't want you to own nothing. They don't want you to have anything. They want to tell you what to do. This is bad. This technology is evil, and it's good in a way, but when it's used wrongly, it's very bad, and this is what people face. And like I said, they try to get people being lazy. Oh, use this card, use this. Oh, you don't have to do that. It's just about brainwashing and making people lazy, and then they got you. They can control you.
Bill, before Patrick answers, I want to ask you a specific question.
Sure.
When did you start coming around to this revelation? I mean, it's always interesting to listen to what the callers have to say. When did you start picking up on this whole thing that you're talking about?
I started picking up on this early when in my 20s and seeing people, with going with this digital thing and then using their cards. And I would say to people, they're making you lazy. They're making you depend on them, what they're showing you and telling you what to do. They're taking away your rights. Like, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't smoke. But I said it starts with little things like that. It's all forms of brainwashing and it happens in Europe, and then it makes its way to America. It's like it's tested over there, then comes here, like the last few person was saying about China, how that's a big surveillance country. And that will come here. These people, like Blackwater, like what happened in California with the fire, they were there right away looking to buy up that property. Sure. And I still say to people, I think that was made to happen because that property, they can make a ton of money. And they were there right away looking to take people's land away. But it's all about making people lazy and being dependent on machines. So that's how I feel. Thank you.
Bill, thank you so much. I appreciate your commentary.
Okay,
Patrick, we've got a couple of minutes before we go to the next break, but response that you have, of course, to Bill, who's very much in line and very aware of what's happening.
He is, actually, and you can't add much to that, but we need to remember that all scientists, all engineers, all technicians are not technocrats, not necessarily. Mm-hmm. The difference is when a person who has like engineering features or whatever, that they have an issue with controlling of everything in their environment, that's when they go over the line. And there's many people who don't have the desire to control the world. Believe me, there's plenty of people out there. But the technocrats that we're talking about here, apparently they have a lust to control everything in the environment. And unfortunately, they're the ones that have amassed all these billions and billions and billions of dollars, like people like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, et cetera. They can achieve their goals now without anybody else supporting them at this point. They have all the money they need, and apparently they're not elected and they're unelected and unaccountable. So how do you get rid of them? Well,
stay on the line, everybody. We're going to continue here with Patrick Wood as we go to our next break here, moving to the top of the hour number one. We'll do our very best, if not in this hour, to continue the conversation because the callers rule, and that's the way it should be. That's the reason we're doing the Dr. Sky experience, I should say, to give everybody that, who's interested out there to have a conversation. Because remember, folks, there's 4 types of conversation. There's dialogue, debate, discourse, and diatribe. We prefer dialogue where we have sensible, common sense conversations with you, the listeners of Talk Radio 77 WABC. We'll be right back.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I'm cocked, locked, and ready to rock, Doc. Hey, working hard, playing hard America. This is your blood brother, Ted Nugent, celebrating the American dream and our Second Amendment rights to keep and bear arms. With my blood brother, Steve Cates. Stand up for what you believe in, my friends.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ted. He says it so well. 48 minutes after the hour, let's go to the callers. Pamela in New Jersey, you've been patient. Good morning. You're on with Patrick Wood.
Good morning. I've been calling congresspeople and senators about this big, beautiful bill. There's a section in it which I find absolutely frightening. Yes. They said to build AI generative stations, which involves huge amount of energy, mobile nuclear units, and a grid. They can take over your land, which is called eminent domain.
Ooh, that's not good.
And Yeah, and they don't really want to hear your, oh, it's progress. No, it isn't. And I've also noticed that the utilities bill, I was just looking at my water bill, each time you get a bill now, the price goes up. I think they're pushing us off our lands through the utilities. The utilities have been given power that is outrageous, and through technical, smart meters and everything. I really do believe that.
Pamela, I appreciate you. Let's have Patrick respond here and stay on the line with us here. And folks, if indeed you don't get in this hour, we're more than happy to carry you over the best of our ability into hour number 2. That's why we do 2 hours with special guests. And Patrick, please continue.
She is absolutely right. I can't add anything to what she's saying. This is a land grab, and the utilities are part of the lever to get people off their land in the first place.
Yeah, it's sad. Pamela, you get the last word. Go ahead.
I was in the post office today, and a man started yelling and screaming and swearing, and everybody kind of ducked, wondering if he was going postal, which he was. He was opening up his bills.
Oh, my God.
And he was screaming and yelling. And I tell you, I can't say as I blame him, because every time we get a bill, we're all frightened in New Jersey to look at our next bill from PSE&G, because they upped it in January. They're going to up it again. And they're like the Gestapo. They used to be polite, and, I didn't think about utilities every single day of my life. Now I see them, right? and you get frightened. You actually get frightened because they're ordering us around, and the water bill just went, they sneak it on the base charge. They just went up $3 and something here in New Jersey. And you're like, well, wait a minute, I didn't use more water this last 3 months. What happened? The base charge goes up every single quarter now.
Well, they call it, not to be funny, Pamela, it's voodoo economics. I mean, look what they're doing out there. Patrick would agree. You're 100% right. We here in Arizona experience the same thing. And not to, make your problems and the issues that you're bringing up less important, we have a big crisis called water. We spell it W-A-T-E-R, right, Patrick? And they're fighting over the Colorado River water. So I can only imagine what you're going through, Pamela, with everything about generation of energy. And then many are saying, how crazy? We're going to do this by sustainable energy like solar and wind power. And look at all the birds and animals that are harmed, as many people say, through wind power. It's just not a bill. Your bill will go up astronomically, no pun intended, right? That's a shame. It's horrible.
They're putting the wind turbines back on Long Island because they made a deal with the pipeline. And listen, I know we need a certain amount of fossil fuels, or whatever they're calling it now, and I understand it, but these wind turbines are bad, and Van Drew got them taken out along the South Jersey on the coastline, but they're putting them back in on Long Island. They're putting them back in, and they're sustaining them. And every time I look, another piece of land has been taken, like that gentleman said. I just heard in Henderson, Nevada, they're building all of those units. The only ones getting rich off of those, they're not affordable housing, is the conglomerate buying them.
It's a shame. Pamela, I wish we had more time. We're racing to the top of the hour, but I hope you're enjoying the show. Apparently it's coming through loud and clear, and I hope you'll be continuing to join us on the Dr. Sky Experience. Opening people's minds, right, Pamela? Thank you, and have a good weekend. We appreciate you. Patrick, boy, we really are going here strong with the callers. We've actually lit up the entire caller board in the first hour, which is, to me, a high honor, but more importantly, about you. So let's hear what you have to say about this. And don't forget, if we don't get to you in this hour, we will talk to Bill, who's navigating this starship now, to find out who's waiting, because we want you to get on the air. Patrick, your summarization of this hour and some of the things that I know we'll talk about in the next hour. Please.
You bet. Let's talk about energy just for a minute, because the AI industry at this point, with all the data centers they're putting around the country, we have several in Arizona, as you know, but they're all over the country at this point, especially in the Northeast. There's a ton of them back there. They're eating up all of the available power at this point, and the electricity rates are going to skyrocket in the next few years as the AI data centers take power away from us. It's going to be basically a power grab at that point. We're the ones that are going to pay for that power with increased rates. This is absolutely wrong. We've been
You're right, Patrick.
in Arizona.
It's crazy.
It is. And also, this mentioned the water as well. The water that these plants have to use is very significant. We don't have water to spare in Arizona, but these plants are using inordinate amounts of water and electricity, and they thumb their nose at us, at the people of this community. And they really don't care. I see the same thing happen in Abilene, Texas. The same thing happened in Memphis, Tennessee, and other examples I've seen around the country where these big data centers come in and just basically, shove the neighbors out of the way, use eminent domain if they had to, get extras at land for them to build their server farms. And people are really going to get sick of this in the end. This last caller, you're absolutely right. You're going to be
Pamela says it very well, and I know you're still listening.
Pay the utility bill.
No, it's ridiculous. Exactly. And let's put it this way. I've read something, Patrick, in your information here, and correct me if I'm not getting this across clearly, that in a measured interval for one of these AI data centers, we're talking about 2 million homes could be powered by over time. But what I'm missing is, what's the interval? I don't think it's a day. It could be over a year? I don't know that. What say you to answer that correctly?
Well, that's an incremental amount. It doesn't say, when you say enough power to power 2 million homes, for instance, that means continuously powering them, like day by day. So, but the thing is, you can turn your lights on your house and, your bill stops. But the data centers, they never shut down. There's no such thing as shutting down their computers because they have to keep them running.
Because surveillance is eternal, right? It doesn't take a holiday, right? It has to continue on, in some corner of some, server that has to continue to put everything that Patrick Wood has on him, Steve, and everybody else like Pamela, Ray, Nick, Joan, all the other good folks that are out there. So this is kind of an interesting subject, to say the least. Technocracy.news. What are some of the headlines? Because we're going to get into some of your articles in hour number 2. And as I promised, we'll get everybody that we can on the air as best as we can. What are some of the leading articles that are coming up on Technocracy.news right now? Just give us a little bit of a flavor, a little taste.
Well, here's a great one. How about how technocracy thrives on global chaos? We see a lot of that going on, don't we, right now?
Absolutely.
Here's another one. Mark Zuckerberg is personally building a dream team to create artificial general intelligence and artificial superintelligence. He's doing it personally. He's interviewing all the people for his dream team. That's sweet, right? How about here's a headline. It begins. AI is taking thousands of jobs. Will it take yours? There you go.
Right. Let me say this. I'm sure, Patrick.
Amazon's testing humanoid robots. Yeah. So anyway,
humanoid robots. That's crazy.
Every day there's. Yeah.
And let me just apologize to the audience. What I think we're getting here is the Apollo syndrome. And what do I mean by that? We're getting a bit of a lag here. It's no fault of the station, and it's probably no fault of anybody. It's out there in cyberspace. It's just that when we're talking, a lot of times there's a lag between the communication here. So it sounds like we're stepping on each other, and I apologize to the audience, if that seems to be coming through here. But, Patrick, you're doing fine, and God bless everybody who's maintaining this great signal out to the cosmos. We appreciate that. So much more. You were saying about, and just continue. There's a couple of other headlines that we missed out on. Tell us more.
Well, Tony Blair, he said that Britain now should have AI doctors and nurses. This is coming to America as well.
No, thank you.
Do you want to have your doctor be an AI program that will tell you that'll tell you what you need to do for your whatever disease you have? No. I don't think so. Just absolutely crazy. How about Hawaii becomes the first state to charge tourists for their carbon footprint?
More with Patrick Wood when we come back, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry to cut you short there, but much more to come here on the Dr. Sky Experience. We're on Talk Radio 77 WABC.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Good evening and good morning. Welcome to hour number 2 of the Dr. Sky Experience. Always great guest. Normally our content centers around the subjects of astronomy, space, aviation, and weather. American exceptionalism, and celebrity guests in the mix. For the second hour, we're privileged and honored to have Patrick Wood. He's the author and is a leading critical expert on sustainable development, green economy, Agenda 21 and 2030. That whole story continues under the guise of technocracy. His website is technocracy.news. And ladies and gentlemen, 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222, as we have almost a full board of callers here, which we promise we'll get to. Email me at DRSKY, Dr. Sky at WABCRadio.com. And to check out our vast podcast archive, simply go to WABCRadio.com or RedAppleAudioNetworks.com. Patrick, welcome back. Let's now go to join the callers who have been patiently waiting. Let's say good morning to Nick on line number 3. In Virginia, your chance to be heard here on WABC. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning, Dr. Sky. I think the mistake that America is making now and will be making in the near future with AI is a dependence on it. AI is just a reflection of the human mind, and AI cannot solve man's problems, such as one of the oldest of man's unsolved problems, and that is how to deal with our solid human waste. You know, we haven't really evolved from Roman sanitary systems. And you look at a country like Russia today that has nuclear weapons, but only 30% of people in Russia have a access to a flush commode.
How right you are. Yeah.
And it's just, we haven't really solved that simple problem. And where other countries have really come up with inventions that we don't approve here in America due to, I guess it's more of political reasons and preserving the treatment systems that we have here in this country right now. You know, all the municipal wastewater systems that we have. There's a lot of jobs there, and you've got people that maintain these systems and sell it to municipalities, and they think that's the only way that we can deal with our solid waste, and it isn't. We can, and I can give you a good example because I live here in the Washington, D.C. area, and all the municipalities along Potomac River depend on Potomac water for their drinking water and all the way down to D.C. And they say, I heard this when I moved here in this area in 1980, they say, if you're drinking municipal water in D.C., it's already been through 10 people.
Wow, that's amazing. Nick, let's have that conversation with Patrick Wood, as we love conversation, and we call it dialogue. Patrick, wow, we get great callers here on this show who obviously know a lot and care about a lot. What do you say?
I guess so, absolutely. You know, the business with water, this is really significant all across the West, especially, but what he's talking about is in the East, Northeast. But water has made, well, let me back up. Technocracy intentionally has made water scarce. Water is the most abundant molecule in the world at this point. I figured how much is 72%, whatever. Everything, the water and the universe is water. It's everything, everywhere, right? Well, there's never water doesn't dissipate. It just gets recycled. The Earth does it, and machines do it as well, and filters do it as well. But there's no shortage of water anywhere in the world at this point. But they're telling us, you have to be very careful not to use water. You know, we're going to ration it and we'll do stuff with it, and you have to pay for it because so you get bottles of water and pay, $2 a gallon for water when you get it out of a well or out of your tap.
Right.
It's
Create a crisis
insane,
where there is
but
no
you're
crisis.
absolutely right.
Now, Nick, you have the last word on this. If you're still with us, appreciate your time.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And but we need to use creative. We need to use creativity to solve these problems, and I just don't see that happening in our towns and states right here, right now.
Wow. Nick, I appreciate you, and hope
welcome.
you'll continue to be part of the Dr. Sky experience with great commentary and observations. Let's continue as we go down the caller line. Let's go to line number 1 and say good morning to Joan in New York City. Good morning, Joan. You're on with Patrick.
Oh, hi. I was going to say something else, but the caller we just had was so interesting, and he reminded me of something that I heard many years ago about this toilet flushing problem and water, the shortage of water. You remember Dr. Helen Caldicott? She was an Australian physician. She was very active in anti-nuclear issues. She talked about President Reagan. She met with him. And she used to do a radio show on environmental issues. And she said something so interesting. She said, why are we flushing our toilets with fresh water? All that water, when you take a shower, a tremendous amount of water goes right down the drain and goes into the sewers, wherever it goes. Why don't we hook up all bathrooms, hook up the wastewater from your shower, and flush the toilet with that? Why are we using fresh water in the toilet? Great
What
question.
a genius
I've never
idea
heard an
that
answer.
is.
Yeah.
Neither have I.
Yeah.
Patrick, any comment on that? Because, Joan, you've just enlightened me on something. That's a way to save the water of the planet and use it again without using fresh. Yeah.
I think that the mobile community already has discovered that trick of using gray water to fill the toilet. So I don't think it's a new thing, but it's a very creative one.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if there's any plumbers out there, feel free to call in at 1-800-848-9222. And maybe we can get a way, Joan, that we can hook this up in our own homes and do our own part. Because wouldn't that obviously then lower the amount of water that we're using in our water bill every month? Of course, if we recycled that water. Yeah, you bring up a genius idea. And I'm sure everybody within the sound of WABC, I'm sure there's an entrepreneur or two out there, Joan, that's already taken that, and there's probably tomorrow they'll file a patent on it. There you go. Thank you, Joan. Any other comment you want to make?
Idea.
Yeah, any other comment?
Credit goes to Dr. Helen Caldicott.
Well, thank you for your time. Hope you continue to be part of the Dr. Sky experience as you are right now. Let's now say hello on line number 2 to Deanna from Brooklyn. Good morning, Deanna. Thank you for joining us on the Dr. Sky experience.
Thank you so much. It's so invaluable to have this discussion. I would like to also mention regarding the water usage. I feel like getting a foot pedal because sometimes your hands are full and then you have to turn the water off and you have to take a long moment before you're able to do so. Sure. And if you had a foot pedal, you could constantly regulate the flow of the water. You could turn it off with the foot, and then you would, you consistently, you wouldn't have to keep turning it on with your hands. But I mean, there's all kinds of ways to save. But the whole mentality of smart meters, for instance, perhaps your guest would know the smart meters cause cancer and they tend to be flammable. Is that true?
Patrick, this is a great question. I was actually going to bring this up sometime in the discussion, but Deanna, you really hit a home run. Go ahead, Patrick. This is a good one. I'd like to hear about smart meters.
Explain it to me. I didn't quite hear the bit about smart meters. And
go ahead, Deanna,
what
please.
I'm saying is they are flammable and they cause sleeplessness and cancer, and they're forever collecting data, as you had mentioned, and also they will try to sneak them in. Yeah. And they say that they're going to be somehow better for you, but the bill goes up as soon as you get the smart meter.
Interesting.
Yes, exactly. That isn't that odd that they tell you we're going to save you money by giving you the smart meter, even if it's no charge, but then your bill goes up. How does that work? Well,
you know what that is?
System, you know,
Deanna and Patrick. That's what I consider voodoo economics, and it violates the rules of common sense. Right?
Yes, I wish you would have a whole.
And, you know, you have to go.
Go ahead, Deanna. I'm sorry.
It sounds like have a town hall, have several town halls, and so people could really do deep dive and organize more. But there needs to be more of a community groundswell, because communities can defeat this. And then they can spread it to the next community, because everyone is so oblivious because they're all distracted by their cell phones and all these little messages, soundbite. We're living in a soundbite, what is that? Static, like the static on the television when it gets. It's just we're oblivious.
It's like the Twilight Zone, Deanna. It's like the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
And you know what, Patrick and Deanna and everybody listening around the world, this is my big gripe. And maybe I need help from somebody out there, and you can call in at 1-800-848-9222. I'm a humble servant here. My problem, Deanna and Patrick, I can't not look at my cell phone without, I want to read a news article. And I'm bombarded, do I sound naive, with 800 different advertisements that I don't really want to see, and I didn't ever want to buy the product, so I can't say that, oh, yeah, there's that shirt that I watched a few months ago that I wanted. Isn't that incredible, Deanna? I mean, it's like there's no more peace on this whole thing, and we're paying for the whole service, and we don't have, unless, maybe I'm sounding a little old here. Patrick, do I sound like I'm complaining more so? Do I? I hope not.
Confusion control.
It could be.
It is crazy. Well, Deanna, I think I'm going to go see my psychotherapist on Tuesday. And, of course, I don't have one. At least, thank God I don't at this point.
You.
No, I appreciate it. Deanna, thank you so much for your time. And
thank you.
Appreciate you being on the Dr. Sky Experience. Let's continue with the callers. It looks like the lines are continually, how do I say it? A full board of callers. We love it. Let's go to line 5 and say hello to Ray. Good morning in Brooklyn. Are you with us? And your question or comment?
I am. Dr. Sky, I had time to format a question, even if it's going to be short. I've been holding around for 45 minutes. I often introduce yes, sir. I often introduce the failed species concept, of course, excluding the two gentlemen and myself, who I'm very privileged to have reached tonight. But I would like to direct this question to Mr. Wood, whatever author put the opposing skulls on his early book, The Evil Twins. I mean, there's no upside between that and your newer book, because I wanted to mention hypothetically, of course, if let's say there was a God that created Earth and then immediately said, this might exclude animals. I mean, they could be included in as a failed species, as much as I love them. But if God wound up turning around quickly saying, this didn't work out, they are a failed creation of mine, is that the reason that, I heard a glint of optimism in Mr. Wood's remarks earlier, but when I saw when I contemplate this Evil Twins, which I'll probably order, I just felt like maybe back then he was a little more dark. And I was wondering if there's ever going to be something better than a world ending by fire and chaos and water. And I mean, do they want us to reach our 250th anniversary? The planet's, like you said, not only in fire, but I've never seen in my 67 years the turmoil. Even though I heard of World War II and whatnot, I never seen such turmoil like this come into almost like a. You have to be careful not to panic and cause hysteria. I didn't want
Ray,
call to reach.
Yeah, you've given us ideas for shows for the next 2 years. I mean, this is great. But Patrick and Ray, here comes the dialogue. Gentlemen, go for it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Let me give you a thought.
This
is going to be the year of...
Okay, here's what I'm experiencing, Patrick. There's a lag on the other side, on your side, but let's see if we can do this. Ray, you've made some comments, and let me see if we can get Patrick just to chime in on this. There's like a little bit of a couple of second delay here, so we apologize to the audience. Go ahead, Patrick.
Oh, okay, yeah, I get it. Let me tell you, this is going to be the year of the robots. In 2026 is going to be a flood of robots in society. We even walking around the street, people are going to have them in their home. Employers are going to take them into their place of employment. What do you think when all these robots are walking around? They'll all be equipped with AI. What do you think as jobs start to get lost, right, and people get displaced from their job because of robots? What do you think the Teamsters Union are going to do about that? What do you think? Do you think labor is finally going to stand up and say, "Heck no, you're not going to take our jobs"? I think I could see a massive swell of resistance coming. The game is not over yet, for sure.
No, it's terrible. Ray, you get the last word. Go ahead.
Hope. Yeah, I was employed in the Teamsters for 45 years, and I noticed there's some jobs of civility that I don't know how they could even consider using a robot that would be quite expensive to replace human beings trying to keep New York City and the surrounding parts of their buildings as clean and safe as possible. But I often have to succeed to Mr. Wood's brains far more than mine, even if we're close to the same age. But I was just trying to direct that question. Do you think a failed species concept, when it comes to transhumanism and the powers of the highest level of technocracy, do you think that that's kind of evil, isn't it? I mean, is there any upside, sir? Is there any possibility of saving the species?
Good question, Ray. Wow.
No. I know the concept of transhumanism is to trans into post-humanism. Klaus Schwab calls that at the World Economic Forum humanity 2.0. What that means is that technology will be merged with the human condition to make something different than what we are right now. But I'll tell you one thing. You're the only one that can be in charge of your humanity. If you choose to give it away, you can. If you choose to keep it, you should, I think, in the case. And but that's a choice that should be left up to every person on this planet, especially in America.
Absolutely.
And I think there's going to be pushed comes to shove on this, and in the end, what people say, no, we're not going to give up our humanity. Thank you very much. Go away. We're not going to do it.
Ray, he makes good points. I appreciate you. Thank you for being very much at the tip of the spear on these subjects. I mean, I'm impressed that you're talking the terms transhumanism and the questions about the hope for the human species as things change with this focus on AI, and as people a lot smarter than myself, I can't speak for anybody else, Ray Kurzweil in his books, this genius as he's talked about AI, one of his first books was The Age of Spiritual Machines. Maybe many people read it around 25 years ago. And then that this spirituality thing, that this entire junction between mankind and the robots and the AI world is coming closer, and that he used the term singularity, and his latest book is Singularity is Nearer, and it may already be here. Ray in Brooklyn, thanks for the call. This is interesting, Patrick. Boy, we could spend years doing this, and that's why we hope to have you back again as we talk about these particular subjects.
Really good, yeah.
If you want to get in touch with Patrick, it's technocracy.news. That's a real interesting website. But this is fascinating. We have still callers on the line here, and I promise what we'll do after the hard break coming up here. We're going to be going then to Diane in New Jersey and Sherilyn from the beautiful nation of Canada in Ontario. I promise we'll get you on the air. But some of these topics are really spooky. You mentioned something about what Zuckerberg is looking to do, and that robots and these AIs will be what? Simply, no, I'm not naive, but taking so many jobs, what are we all going to be doing as people? Just sitting around? Or maybe somebody thinks that's good to take away the impetus of people like engineers and creativity. What, we're going to let the machines do it? Not me. What say you?
Well, I'm glad that you won't be replaced, likely, although there are newscasters coming on the scene that are based on AI. I don't know. They write their own scripts, too, and then they do the announcing, so who knows. But this business of robots and taking jobs, this is really going to hit home, I think, in about 18 months to 12 months from now. It's already started. We see layoffs happening at big companies like Microsoft of all places. They just announced they're going to lay off 3% of their workforce system wide. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a heck of a lot of people.
Companies like and companies like Salesforce. They said there's a hiring freeze for new programmers at this point because AI is taking the slack up with their existing programmers. This is going to be spreading to all industries, and what these people are thinking, say, well, you can do arts and crafts, and you do games, and you do virtual reality or something at home. This is absolutely crazy. This is actually what they said, but they're proposing universal basic income for everybody who cannot get a job. And cynically, they call this new class that's being formed the unemployables, not the unemployed, but the unemployables. That's so sick. That means Patrick, these are people who will never be able to get a job again. So they're basically going to give them universal basic income, make them basically a slave of the state. They'll never get a job again. They'll run out of money at some point. They'll have nothing to give to their kids, and they'll draw down all their savings, 401ks, all that kind of stuff, and they'll be left with nothing. Oh, thank you. That's exactly what Klaus Schwab says. By 2030, you'll own nothing.
And you'll be happy.
For a lot of people.
Right, and you'll be happy. How ludicrous, because I'm not going to be happy, and I do own things. Not that I'm a person who has to own so many things, and, there's limits. I try to stay within my budget, and like a lot of people do. But, Patrick, we've only opened up the smallest of the can of worms here, and I know within our next half hour, promise to getting on the individuals who are patiently on hold. We certainly appreciate your time. And if you'd like to continue to call us as we move to the last of the half hours before we go to hour number 2's end, 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Put that in your smartphone as much as we're having a conversation about technology. But, Patrick, the things that really bother me, we got about a minute and a half before our hard break here, but I just want to kind of tease this for the audience because they may have concerns about it. Digital IDs, facial recognition, and the scariest one of all, I don't like the word scary, the one I think is nefarious and evil in so many words and so many ways, is the total control of the monetary system with digital currencies. And that, to me, really bothers me. Why am I not allowed to carry cash if I choose to? Why am I not allowed to pay with checks if I want to? Why am I not allowed to do what I want to do and not have all this surveillance? Wow. These are topics that we're going to get into, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue on. But doesn't that bother, Patrick, it bothers you, I know. Talk about it for a minute.
It bothers me to death because when this business of the digital ID is solved, it's not solved yet, but when it is solved to their specifications, it's going to be game over for us at that point.
Well, you say it so well, and there's a video, a documentary that you are recommending, and this is something important, ladies and gentlemen. It's The Agenda, Their Vision, Your Future. How do they get that? They go to what? They go to your website. It's not that you're purchasing the video, so I don't want to think people that we're selling this and pushing people. You go to what? Technocracy.news?
No. It's free. It's free.
That's what I want to do.
It's free on Technocracy.news. You bet.
Thank you, Patrick Wood. We're now at the bottom of the hour, a thing we call the hard break. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. We'll get you on with your questions and comments. That's what makes a dialogue in a conversation. I'm Steve Cates, Dr. Sky, and thanking you, ladies and gentlemen, far and wide, no matter where you're listening. Who knows? Not only around the nation, around the world, but maybe there's somebody out there, even in the cosmos. We'll be right back on the Dr. Sky Experience.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hi, I'm Don Isles. I worked on the software for the lunar module when it landed on the moon. You're listening to the Dr. Sky Experience.
Machines like objectives and not other perspectives. So says James Tunney, author of a very interesting series of books and one entitled Empire of Scientism. 32 minutes after the hour, we appreciate you, ladies and gentlemen, of the Dr. Sky Experience, our special guest in round number 2, and we're certainly going to welcome him. The doormat here is open, and we're welcoming him back. Patrick Wood, he's an author of so many books, and he's a leading and critical expert on sustainable development, green economy, Agendas 21 and 2030, and the subject of technocracy. As promised, let's go to the callers, and let's welcome on line number 3, patient as she has been, Sherilyn in Ontario, Canada. Good morning, Sherilyn.
Good morning. First of all, I want to thank you for your programs. I love Friday night. It's such an educational program.
Thank you.
What I'm calling about, earlier you were talking about smart meters, and we've had the smart meters here for years. You know, for your utilities.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And, what they do is every time, like, it starts out so much for the low, medium, and high for what you're going to pay when you use it, and then they just up how much they're going to charge more for this one and that level, that level. That's how it keeps putting it up. It's like they change the amount you're going to pay for whether you're doing more of your electricity in moderate times, low times, high times, and that's how it puts it up. So...
Yeah, many people don't like them, Sherilyn, but Patrick...
I don't. Yeah, we don't. We didn't. In fact, about a month ago, I was walking by the front door, and there was this gentleman out there at the system at the on the wall, or out there on the side of the house, and I looked, and he was pulling this thing out like it's a light bulb and replacing it. And I said, "You're replacing the smart meter?" And he said, "Oh, yeah." He said, "They wear out after so long." He says, "We replace them." So I imagine you're paying for all that, too.
Yes, Sherilyn, you bring up good subjects. I had one installed in my home. I don't know. I guess I have to be honest with the audience always. I was kind of naive about it. I thought it was just, hey, another better way to, quote, save money. That's what people told me. And I wonder, as we're hearing this. But, Sherilyn, I want to get Patrick to talk about this because this is a concern as we listen to what you're saying in Ontario, Canada, and people, I'm sure, all over the country and the world. Patrick, this is an important topic, what Sherilyn brings up.
It really is. And the first two requirements of historic technocracy from the 1930s, number one, register on a continuous 24-hour per day basis the total net conversion of energy. Number two, by means of registration of energy converted and consumed, make possible a balanced load. You could read that kind of a statement on your utility bill, where they want to use these smart meters to create a balanced load. This has been the plan since 1934, for Pete's sake.
Yeah. There's a gentleman here in Peterborough who is the one that created it, believe it or not. And
where is that, Sherilyn? Where is that? I didn't hear you. Where?
We're in Peterborough, Ontario. There's
Peterborough.
A gentleman here. He created that thing, the smart meter, for California. Oh, they had him designed to make it for California, and then of course it ended up coming here. And at one point, we had a government going to come in, and they were going to take them out. Try to get people to vote for them. And I said something to this guy's girlfriend who was working with me at the hospital, and she said, "They'll never go out. They will never take them out. They save money. They'll never let you take them out." And she was all for it because her partner is the one that created the stupid thing.
Yeah, Sherilyn, this is amazing. Thank you for being part of the show, and I appreciate our Canadian friends.
Yeah, I love your show. It's a good show.
No, well, thank you so much for the kind comment. I was just going to add that we have so many people, as you probably know, from Canada that come down to Arizona. I don't like the term as they described them in the past as snowbirds. I mean, that's kind of a strange commentary, but we've been living with that. But here's the problem with these tariffs that are going on. we've seen a big decline, as you would imagine, from people coming from Canada to spend what we consider to be our warm winter. But hopefully more Canadians will join forces and come back to us, and we, of course, to do trade with them. We're, of course, very proud to be listening to what you have to say. Thank you, Sherilyn. Appreciate your time. Let's go to line number 1. If she's been on the line patiently, we appreciate her time. Diane in New Jersey. Good morning. You're on with Patrick Wood and Steve Cates.
Hello. Thank you both. This is a terrific show. I've really been enthralled with everything you're talking about. Patrick, I've been following you for a long time, so I think you're terrific, and I'm glad that Dr. Sky has had you back again. The thing I was wanting to talk about was the Real ID. I am so concerned about the Real ID. And I urge people to say no, refuse it. You do not need the Real ID. You can travel with your passport, okay? And if you don't have a passport, then get one. But stay away from the Real ID, because that is going to totally control our lives. Everything we do, whether it's banking, our medical records, whether it's whatever you do on the Internet, your telephone conversations, they can follow you on anything. And it isn't just the government. It's the government. It's the internet. The Internet, it is hackers, okay? I mean, now you have... Right? I mean, it's so frightening to me. And if you've already subjected yourself to getting the Real ID, then go back to the motor vehicle department and demand a regular license. You can do this.
Let me ask you, Diana, before Patrick responds on this. He's full of information beyond my level, but here's the deal. When you get this is so interesting. I'm wondering about that. They have this little gold or some little star that I did this, so I'm honest with everybody. How would you then, you're saying you could fly. Obviously, I have a passport, so I have a passport. Don't they have enough information on me with my passport, more so than this driver ID that you're talking about?
They want to control your life, and that's what the Real ID does. It's not that you can't use your passport. It's because they want you controlled totally. And this will do it. The Real ID will do it. And then, of course, the digital currency. Think about what happened to the Canadian truckers, right? I mean, this was brought up on the program earlier, too. I mean, that, it is real. And also, when we talk about control, we've already lived through that, through the global COVID fraud, right? With masks that were ineffective. I deal with small businesses, and I was thinking about, even from a manufacturing standpoint, think about how quickly, all of a sudden, those 6 foot, or the 6 foot social distancing, those squares appeared everywhere.
I remember them.
Right? And all of the partitions that went up in supermarkets to protect the cashier, and in your library, and everywhere you went, banks, they had all of this plexiglass. That takes time to create all of that. How quickly it happened. They had it all pre-planned.
All control. You're right.
Absolutely. Well, and Event 201, which occurred in October, right? Prior to, so that was in October 2019. By January, everything started rolling, right? I mean, it is scary when you think about how quickly they were able to control the population. And they did it so effectively. And they kept the medications away from us, right? You couldn't get the ivermectin, or you couldn't go to a pharmacy because all
about control,
right? Totally controlled, right?
Well, Diane, I appreciate you. I hate to cut you short here.
One other quick thing is quick thing on when we were talking about the guaranteed income. think about the fact that the next step is assisted suicide.
Oh, God, that's hard.
No, well, think about that, because think about all the states that are doing this now, right? I mean, it's becoming very, very, and look in Canada, right? I mean, it's scary. And Bilderberg, that they're meeting in Stockholm now. They just put depopulation on their agenda.
Wow, this is all spooky here, Diane.
Okay,
you should write your own. You should write your own book on this subject. But not to cut you short, I wish we had 52,000 hours.
I thank you.
No, you're awesome. No, and I thank you
so much.
Thank you for joining us on the Dr. Sky Experience, Patrick. You got about 2 minutes before we go to the next break, but now you have the floor, and I learned a lot from Diane, and I'm sure everybody out there. This is awesome conversation.
Yeah, I know she touched on so many points there. I don't know where to start, but this business of technocracy, this is going to be full front and center in the public mind within a few months, I think. This movie on my website at technocracy.news already in 8 days has had over 500,000 views.
And
Tell me that
so.
people don't understand what's going on.
Rightfully so, Patrick.
People are catching on.
And I'm going to be honest, as always, with the audience. I got through half of it, and I'm going to certainly do my diligence to do and watch the whole thing, because that gives me a good reason to want to have you back as time goes on, because obviously it's not every day we get someone who's lighting up every one of the phone lines, and we certainly appreciate all the people out there. Still time, ladies and gentlemen, if you do have a comment, staying on the topic, of course. And again, what are those things in conversation? There's 4 types: dialogue, debate, discourse, and, well, we go on to diatribe, but we don't do that. We like dialogue. So if you want to join us, 1-800-848-9222. We'll be right back with Patrick Wood and any other callers and comments and some other empowering subjects. We'll be right back.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Recently, Hugh Downs was asked why he enjoys listening to the Dr. Sky Show.
I think the reason is simply that with the amount of time he has 2 things going. One is the knowledge to know science, and the second thing is the ability to get it across to people who might not quite understand it, and you get it across correctly. That's quite admirable.
Well, thank you to the late Hugh Downs, a good friend of mine, as he spent his latter years here in the great state of Arizona. 48 minutes after the hour, ladies and gentlemen, we continue with the callers with our special guest, Patrick Wood, on Technocracy. Bob in Long Island, you've been patient. You're on the air.
Oh, thank you, fellas. Just a quick thought on this. The attempt to curtail people having firearms, I think, dovetails into a lot of this control. More importantly, I don't know if people remember, but in March of 2022, Biden had signed off for the U.S. Treasury to investigate central bank digital currency. And that then again was attested by the New York Fed in July. So that's all going to be run by blockchain, which controls everything, as anybody knows. There's a complete history of every transaction that's made. But the worst part about it is the central bank digital currency is programmable, which means that they can put an expiration date on your money. So you get your paycheck. It will be issued by a central bank. There'll be no more banks, no more cash. Eventually, they'll let cash to exist for maybe 2 years. But that money is going to be expirable, which is demonically it's ingenious because you must spend the money, which will keep the economy going, but it gives them control of your money. You won't be able to save money. You won't be able to. And think about how everything has been going. You can notice this with software. Everything has been going to lease agreements. This is the best way to monetize every piece of revenue stream by having you lease everything and not own it.
Right, you'll be happy that you'll own nothing. Right, this is what we were saying before. You'll be happy. Who the hell's going to be happy? Not me. Not you. Not everybody out there, I'm sure. Bob, you bring up some good points. Did you want to ask one more or bring up another one?
Hugo DeGarius was back in 2010. He was an AI and robotics instructor, and he retired in 2010. He worked in the artificial brain lab in Xiamen, China. He was the teacher of theoretical physics and computer science, and he had talked about this merging between cyborgs and people, and his prediction was, and he written some novels on this, but how the evolution of AI is going to be godlike because of their ability to think so fast and rewrite their own software. And they're eventually going to get to the point where, and when they rewrite their software, they incrementally increase their ability to do things faster. I've even heard of this being talked about in modern day when they're doing things with AI and quantum computing and robotics. I mean, and when you talk about depopulation, that's nothing new. Bill Gates has been writing about this for years. And I remember 2 years reading ago about after COVID, the next disease is going to be disease X. And now I've actually heard something about disease X when they were talking about this stuff.
What's the next one coming down the pipeline? You're right. Here we go again. Right, another thing in a dystopian world. But Bob, I want to let Patrick respond here because the time will be running out. But your final thought? Go ahead, Bob.
Has found out that is creating these 6-inch to 12-inch long clots in human bodies. And they think this is back to the development of vaccine using the RNA technology. Okay, I'll let you go.
No, hey, Bob, thank you. I appreciate your time, and let's get Patrick to jump in on this wide variety, a plethora of subjects to discuss. Patrick, we got these great callers here all through these 2 hours.
Exactly. What we see here, the wraparound technology, the cocoon, if you will, it embraces all the physical things in the universe that we've been talking about: energy, water, property rights, that sort of stuff. But also it wraps in the human condition itself. So technocracy has taken over the healthcare system, lock, stock, and barrel at this point. All the decisions are being made according to protocols, and now AI. China has an AI hospital. It's staffed by AI doctors and nurses.
That's amazing.
You can't see a doctor because they don't have any doctors.
Wow, this is really scary.
5,000 patients a month.
Now you're scaring me, Pat.
What?
No, I mean, this is terrible.
Okay, well,
kidding.
Yeah. I know this is crazy. You can see this coming here. This is what Tony Blair wants to do in England right now.
No, thank you.
You see this technocratic mechanism surrounding all facets of the human condition, all domains that we can name of humanity: our health, our sustenance, our food, our water, our energy, the air that we breathe, etc. Is all coming under this technocratic umbrella to eventually to establish a scientific dictatorship where nobody can escape.
It's horrible. We go to one more caller, Joaquin in Pennsylvania. You'll have to be brief as we move to the top of the hour. Good morning, Joaquin. What say you?
Something. This is really something else. Good morning. It really smacks you in the face of biblical end times prophecies, doesn't it? I mean, you can see.
Yes, it does.
Right. And
Revelation.
Yes. I mean, the UK is already implementing the 15-minute cities, from what I understand. And once you don't have the opportunity, to be able to go out and work, and when man has nothing left to do, and they're going to give you your paycheck every week, and they're going to have total control of you. Then they're going to dictate to you how you spend that money. You're going to be totally reliant on them. There's no more anymore, taking care of yourself. They'll determine that you're not going to have a gun. You're not going to be able to drive a car. You're going to live in a small apartment, stacked on top of everybody else. You're not going to eat real beef anymore. They're going to have that lab meat that they make from cancer cells, I guess. It's Bill Gates or whoever's coming up with that one. And
that's bad, Joaquin.
Not to mention these mRNA vaccines that who knows what they do to you.
Well, you're right, and I always sum it up this way. A smarter person than myself, I did a lot of, law enforcement things in my life and firearm training, and one of the big tenets there, which doesn't always relate to firearms, is just about human nature. The definition of a victim, ladies and gentlemen, is someone with no options. Always fight back legally and responsibly. Joaquin, thanks for your input. Patrick, you get the last word here. I want people to go to technocracy.news. Obviously, our clarion call here is for people to take a good look, spend a little bit of time, maybe 2 hours, the agenda, their vision, your future, and in the future iteration with you, we'll get responses to that. Patrick Wood, final comments for you. You get the last 4 minutes.
Indeed. I thank you for your time, especially with this movie. I just encourage people now to go to it and listen to it all the way through. It's a two-hour presentation. However, when we talk about Bible prophecy, by the way, this is an important topic we haven't really talked about yet. It might be interesting, especially with this audience, to talk about the effect on religion and AI. And at this point, there's a new trend emerging right now. I just really talked about it for the first time this last week. But the subject about AI God, this is really weird. But
that's scary. I talk to a lot of young people, Patrick.
I know.
Yeah,
this is crazy.
I talk to a lot of young people, and they say to me, they're kind of smirk when they look at me, and they go, there's no God. The God is the AI. It's how we get all our information. But let me not, this is the wrong time to try to put a little scare into people. It's not my intention. But all this insanity of this digital world ends in a flash of an electromagnetic pulse attack. Yes. And at one time, I knew this gentleman, Dr. Peter Vincent Pry, P-R-Y. People should look him up. I read every one of his white papers, Patrick, maybe you did too, on the effects from countries, communist China, North Korea, Iran, and others, Russia, that would simply detonate a high-altitude nuclear device up about 80 miles above the Earth, above our country, let's say, or other countries. And all this stuff just goes back to sand. And so, all this digital stuff is what? Just a bunch of sand from crystallization. So, wow, that sounds depressing, but we're putting too much emphasis and people are not paying attention unless they're listening to this particular show. Patrick, your last comment.
You bet. I want to encourage people just to go to my website, get in the stream of things. You can buy a book there. You can get videos, many videos that I've made, interviews over the last 15 years even, and there's no substitute for having a book in your hand because it can't be censored. If you have
That's
it,
right.
Nobody's going to change it on you, right?
No
you don't
censorship.
know what's going to happen with electronic media at this point.
No censorship.
That's right. So
Patrick Wood,
get it when he can.
I appreciate you so much, and as all the audience does here, you lit up the phone lines, and if you could look at the lights, I'm sure, that Bill is doing as he's navigating this powerful starship signal of WABC, it would look like a small Christmas tree right there, and that's a great thing. Patrick Wood, thank you. Let's all stay together, ladies and gentlemen. A little less than 24 hours or so, we will be doing another iteration, our weekend program, midnight Saturdays, Eastern Daylight Time to 2 a.m. Sunday. We wish the President a happy birthday, and the second, as we talk about the 250th anniversary of the United States Army, and so many other things as we move into Flag Day. What a beautiful celebration from Flag Day, June 14th, 1777, a resolution by the Second Continental Congress. Tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, we're expecting to have another great guest, Don Iles. What did he do? A young man, 20-some years at MIT, who developed the landing software for the Apollo missions. That the first one, Neil and Buzz, went to the moon. A fascinating story with you on the Dr. Sky Experience. Thank you, Bill, for navigating the show. And ladies and gentlemen, clear skies, health and happiness. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Dr. Sky Experience. You can hear the Dr. Sky Experience Saturday mornings, midnight to 2 a.m. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?